Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your favorite neighborhood coin guru. There's a few of us out there. Hope everyone's having a great morning. And the topic for today's video, bleh, man, I got untie the old tongue there. The topic for today's video is one that I think I've touched on a number of occasions in Blue Ridge Silverhound's past. But let's go ahead and rediscover this quick little lesson on error coins, and we're going to talk about specifically the 5 most common errors that we come across, probably more so in the coin roll hunting game. If you guys don't know what that is, people go to the bank, they purchase full boxes of rolls of their favorite denomination, whether it's pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters. A lot of you should already know exactly what this is. There's going to be a few of you that are kind of new to it. Welcome, I guess. There's a lot of information going around of the type of coins that you should be looking for as you search through just massive amounts of coin. But I had someone in my email ask me what's the most common errors to find in coins and how much are they worth. Well, as opposed to just doing a good old regular thumbnail video, we're going to use eBay as the ultimate tool to take a look at every single one of these. And then in addition, we're going to see how much these things are selling for. Some would say that because they're common, they're not worth anything. Well, that might be the case for certain things, but you're going to see that they're, depending on the severity of each type of coin error, will dictate how much these things go for in the secondary market. eBay, of course, is the ultimate tool to use. Just trying to identify and figure out how much these things are selling for. So, what we're going to do is we're going to start off by going to the error section of the coins. Whatever. Category. Can't even think this morning. So we're going to go to collectibles and art. You're going to have a drop down that comes down. And you're going to go to coins and paper money. And then on the left-hand side, you could drill it down even further. So we're going to go to U.S. coins. And there's going to be a section called U.S. coin errors. Okay, this is where we're going to be. And I have my list of 5 right here for you. In no particular order, we're going to go ahead and take a look at each one. Again, keep in mind, when you find these, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have like this big, expensive coin. There's a reason why these are the top 5 most common error coins on the list. They're more widely available in the marketplace today. These come up pretty frequently as you're sorting through your change and your rolls. So let's go ahead and start right off with die chips. And die chip simply means that your coin exhibits little tiny breaks in the die that translate onto the coin as breaks. All right, chunks of the die falling off, and then you'll see, just various tiny little gobs and goops. Most of them are on the date, letters. Any design devices is where you're going to find a lot of these. So we're going to stick with the most relevant listings on here. That's going to help us kind of like identify exactly what each error is. We're not going to go into stuff like this. This guy's ridiculous because he has a coin that obviously has a bunch of glue or something on there. So we're going to stay away from listings like that, and we're just going to go ahead and deep dive into the listings that are relevant to each individual error. So, a great example would be this 2020 Lincoln Shield Cent. This is one of the newer coins. Now, you'll see a bunch of little die chips at the top of the shield on the reverse. Okay, this is what die chips are. All right, that is a common spot on the Lincoln Shield Cents. I did a video yesterday breaking open a 2013 roll of Lincoln Shield Cents, and we have seen quite a few of these in that roll with a bunch of little die chips on the top of the shield. So that's a great example. This Washington quarter right here, this was actually from 2019. I believe this is the Lowell National Park has a die chip right on the ear. It looks like an earring. All right, so that one has been identified as being a die chip. There's been some rumors that it was intentionally placed there by the Mint employee to kind of, I don't know, to infuse an artificial error into the marketplace, but that is a true blue die chip right there. All right, so the 2015 Nebraska Homestead Quarter has this big old die chip underneath the pump handle base, like you see there, in addition to the bucket. All right, when it's just under the bucket, they actually refer it as the dripping bucket die chip. But this one's got a big, huge die chip underneath the pump handle base and the bucket right over there. Can you guys see that? There we go. That's a great example of a die chip. And then on these coins, the homesteads, you'll also have a lot of the die chips on the roof. And they call that snowy roof die chips, which is pretty cool. Now let's see if we can find one that's on a Lincoln cent. You guys have seen the Lincoln cent die chips in the date. And they are quite common. So here's a 55S, and then we have quite a bit of die chips in the date. As you can see, this person's asking $10. So let's go ahead and take a look at some sold listings. And you'll see that depending on the severity of the die chips, they could sell for about 50 cents to $1, like this Blue Ridge Parkway. You got a little chip on one of the petals of the flower on the reverse there. Some of the more obscure kind of like hidden die chips, like on this Arizona State Quarter, because of how busy the design is, you're not going to be able to see it that well. In addition, that's where you're going to find a lot of chips anyways, because the design is so busy, it's so articulate, and the engraving is very fine on there. That's a cud. That's not a chip. Here you go. Here's a 57 wheat cent that has a few die chips on the reverse on the letter in T and cent, in addition to the S in states. Sorry, my allergies are kicking my butt this morning. You'll find a lot of die chips on the reverse of the wheat cents, especially on the wheat stalks. Those are pretty common. But take a look at that. $2, $3, $4 is what you can expect for some of these coins. Here's a 52S with a die chip in the 5 of the date. That is a BU red that's sold for $11 almost, shipped. So $8 plus $2.90 shipping. That's incredible. So yes, die chips have some sort of market value. All right, so that's the first one. The next one, in which I come across quite frequently and is actually a common error, is going to be misaligned dies. All right, and real simple. Misaligned dies is you have one die, usually the hammer die, which strikes the obverse design, with, you know, like on this quarter. The obverse is the presidential side that has Washington on there. It's offset just slightly from the anvil die. So you're going to have on like this 84 Washington quarter, and these things are very collectible, by the way. You're going to have on these an off-center appearance to the front of the coin, but on the reverse, it's centered. It's well centered. It's kind of crazy when you first come across it. The coins with misaligned dies that are worth the most amount of money are going to be the ones with a tremendous offset where you actually lose some of the design details. In the case of this quarter, you're losing a lot of the date on there. It's sheared off the date in half, as a matter of fact. And these are the examples. The more extreme the example, the more that they're going to be sold for in the secondary market. So that's a great example right there. Let's see if we could find a few others that's not graded. Here's a 2000D. I mean, look how worn down this one is. It sold for $10 plus $4.05 shipping. So this one right here has a huge offset on the front of the coin, which is incredible. But take a look at the reverse. Perfectly centered. And it sold for $14.04 if you wanted to be exact. But this, ladies and gentlemen, look at the condition of the coin too. I mean, this would be a details grade if you sent it out to a grader. No doubt about it. But $14. Just a basic, good old, regular coin roll hunting find. Sometimes it's not just about finding like rare dates, silver, anything like that. It's finding some of these minor errors that all stack up. Take a look at this nickel. We'll end it off on this nickel. It's a 2000D. Sold for $24. Bravo on that one. So you have the misaligned obverse die, and then the reverse is perfectly centered on there. This is what it's about. So this guy right here only has a feedback of 1, but essentially he started the auction off at $20, $4 shipping, and then someone threw a bid in last second. So it sold for $24. So that's the second common error that you come. And these are truly common, guys. I'm not gonna crap around with you or anything like that. These are coins that pop up pretty regularly. I have tons of every single one of these. So this one right here, these used to be more available during the 90s. Okay, and people are still coming across it, but there is one little stipulation to this one: blank planchets. All right, which is a blank pre-strike. These right here generally are found in new BU rolls or Fed Reserve bank bags. Okay, of brand new coin. And simply put, this first listing is a great example of blanks. And this one listing showcases not only a clad blank, which is that kind of like dime blank that you see up there. It looks like a washer without the center punched out of it. And you also have a Lincoln cent blank in there too. There you go. And as you can see, the rim is upset on this one, so they call this one a Type 2. If it didn't have the rim on there, and besides, a machine upsets the rim on these coins before they're struck. So when you have a coin without the upsetting rim on there, it's called a Type 1, in case you guys are wondering. I learned that out last year, that there's a Type 1, Type 2. There you go. And look at that. That lot sold for $10. Blank planchets are very common in the marketplace. So these typically, you know, there's people that see this guy sold a batch of 10 of them. Post 1982 zinc, 2.5 grams a piece. They all look like Type 2s, which are pretty common. Type 1s are actually a little bit tougher to find. So it sold for $17.24. And if you go on down the line, you'll see that, you know, they'll sell for $1. The shipping's a little crazy on them, $4.50. Here's a clad blank. The larger the denomination of the blank, the more it's worth. Like, you know, here's a Kennedy $half that sold for $30 plus $4.50 for shipping. The pennies are common as dirt. Very common out there. So that's blank planchets. Okay, the next most common error that you could find today is going to be a die crack. A simple old die crack. All right, and die cracks are right down there with the least valuable. Depending on, again, the severity of the cracks, Like here's a lot of 25 Lincoln die crack era sets, mixed dates and condition, sold for $9, but that's 25 coins. You know, what is that, a quarter a piece or somewhere there? Well, it's a little bit more than that, not too much more. But if you could find one, like here's a 55 with a cracked skull. You have die crack and Liberty there, sold for a best offer, probably $2. That's a lamination peel right there. Which lamination, by the way, did not make the list. In spite of maybe lamination would be like a 1A, 1B with blank planchets. Laminations are pretty common. And again, same thing. Depending on the severity of a lamination, wow, that one's cool. 1985 quarter with a die crack that goes from the rim to his mouth. Look at that. That's cool. But taking a look at it, it looks like a scratch. Because you have a dig right here, and then the build-up next to it. Thought you had something. So it was a scratch. It was a deep scratch, and then after more circulation, the build-up kind of smushed down, I guess. That's not the technical term for stuff like this. Ooh, that one's cool. That war nickel right there with the long die crack on the back of Jefferson's head. Well done with all the arrows. All of the reference arrows certainly helps. Ooh, that one's cool. See that 1994? Right there. That's not what I would consider to be a die crack. I firmly believe that was probably a gouge. It might have been intentional on the U.S. Mint's part to do this, because that's kind of hard to miss. Sold for $24.56. Here's one of those 2009 Lincoln Formative Years pennies that's sold for probably like $4 or $5, and then shipping. But you can see the die crack right there. It goes from the rim to Lincoln's back. But as you can see, they sell anywhere from $1 to $10. There's the state quarter with the spitting horse. That's always a favorite. Here's a die crack on a later date shield set. That's sold for $1.35. It looks circulated. But as you can see, very common. There's a bunch of listings for die cracks. And in the sold section, there's 301 that's sold within the last 90 days. So this is one of the most common. And then finally, the last most common error that you can find in change today is going to be strike through. But in this case, struck through error. The most common is going to be a strike through grease. All right, so when the mint employees are adding extra grease for lubrication for the machinery, the dies will have a big old gob of grease on there. So when a coin is struck through grease, it's going to come out like this on newer coins, especially the clad, where it looks like it's darker in color, and it looks like a cloud on your coin. On the Lincoln cents, it's actually going to absolutely obliterate a lot of the design devices. Now, let's see. Let's do highest first here. Let's see if we get a really crazy looking example. All right, so this one right here is a struck through fragment from another coin. Okay, so a piece of another Lincoln cent had broken off and fallen onto this one that you see here. And that's why on the reverse of this Lincoln cent, you could see the strike through with Lincoln's profile in there. So that was an obverse piece that had fallen off and landed on this bad boy here. That's a huge strike through. This, by the way, I did a video expose, a story on this coin right here. 2018 Lincoln cent with a huge strike through on the reverse. And it's not only this one example, but there are a few different types of this particular date. And the strike-throughs on the reverse are just phenomenal. But as you can see, these are some pretty radical strike-throughs that sold for many hundreds of dollars. Here's that same coin. Sold for $200, and then they turn around and sold it for more than that. But a strike-through, essentially, it's not only grease. The strike-through grease is the most common strike-through that you can find. However, you can find strike-through wood fragments, metal fragments. We've seen in recent history strike-through springs, nails, crazy stuff. Strike-through sandpaper onto Silver Eagles, die caps, wire, struck through wire. There's another one. Look at this one. 2009D Lincoln Formative Years struck through a ton of grease. And this is what it looks like when it struck through a lot of grease. I mean a lot of grease. If there was any words on the front of or the reverse of the coin, it was completely obliterated. I mean, the one side looks good. So the anvil die had a copious amount of grease on there, and that's it's sold near my neck of the woods, close by. Pretty crazy. But there you go. That's the top 5 most common. There's another good one. Look at that, 96D. This one is available. That's a lot of grease. In God We Trust is almost completely gone. Most of the Liberty. A lot of the design details are gone on that one. And you even had quite a bit of it on the reverse, too. Whew. Wow, now I'm going to have to go through and look through some more coins so I can find some of these. Just based off of the sold value of a lot of these coins. It's incredible. But these are undoubtedly the 5 top most common errors to find in your change. And believe it or not, they all have some sort of value. You know, some low value, some like, you know, quite a bit. So hopefully this video was a lot of help in determining, you know, some like general coins to look for. And, you know, it was a lot of fun discussing this, even though I think I've done a video similar to this within the last year or two. I've doubled down and kind of did a refresher course using eBay as a tool for identifying some of these coins. I want to thank you guys for joining in. As always, like, share, subscribe. Hit that bell somewhere down here for instant notification. And as always, Coinaholics, we are discovering together. So you guys have fun with your next hunt. I will see you on the next video. And God bless. Take care. All right.